So here is my sketchbook, and don't forget, when we want to mark it, we want to apply all the criteria of our key assessment points: research wide, research narrow, experimentation exploration, purposeful development, refinement, presentation, and most importantly critical evaluation, with that key word why backwards looking and why forwards looking. What have I done? Why have I done it? How is that going to improve things? Or how did it improve things? What am I going to do next? Why am I choosing to do that in the future, and how will that improve things? And then I get my total out of 70 for the sketchbook. So let's bear all those in mind. Remember, 10 marks for each of these, and then we're going to see how we get on with the sketchbook. So let's have a look at the first page. And we have a lining page, which is, that can actually, yeah, that can be ripped out later. That's just for the moment. And my first page is my title page, and there is nothing on it yet to tell you what I'm doing. And I'm going to leave that to the end, so that doesn't really matter very much, but it does need to be present. The next is my timeline. Now look at this, what a beautiful timeline this is. Let's try and get the whole thing in. And you can see that I've used ink to stain the background, and I've used drips and splashes, and then I've put a roller over the top with ink to give it a nice texture. And as I go across, you can see I've used my masking tape to blank out the line, and that's really very impressive and very beautiful. And I've got a range of techniques in there, and it looks really nice. So I'm thinking in terms of presentation, that's doing quite well. But in terms of wider research, it's not so good, because the first thing that one notices when looking at this is that I haven't actually got any numbers on. So we don't know whether this is 1450 to 1850, 1850 to 1950, 1950 to 2000. We don't know when it is, what it's about. We don't know who the artists are that would fit on it. How useless is that? Well, extremely useless. It's you. So that's a 0 for that. I don't get any marks, even though I've done all this lovely texture work and so on, which as a background is fabulous, but as a foreground in terms of getting me marks is nothing. So I need to add some artists to that. But wait till you see my mind map. And there's nothing. There's no second timeline, there's no mind map. That's blank as well. So I haven't got any narrow research to go on yet either. So far I'm about 6 pages in, and I've got nothing, even though I've got some nicely prepared backgrounds. And now we come to some drawing. Right, so we've got some tonal sketchwork on an A3 piece of paper that's been stuck in. It's okay, it sits in the middle of the page, it's quite nice. It's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top, so it's well positioned. That's all very well, but there's nothing to tell you what I'm doing. There's nothing to tell you why I've started and where I'm coming from. So yes, I've jumped in with some sketches. Yes, I've got some quite nice drawing. It's all tonal, it's all looks quite, you know, accurate in terms of the scale of the elements and so on. I've got different kinds of mark making going on. That's okay, but why? Where does it come from? What's it about? On the next page I develop it a little bit, and so we lose some of the contours and we get into a more tonal sort of drawing, which looks like it's more painterly in a way. So that's quite nice. There is a sense of development there. But you're only aware of that because I tell you. There's nothing on the page to tell you what's going on here. There's no contextualization. So there should be something that tells you about the fact that this is still life objects in a domestic setting. There should be something that maybe advances that beforehand, so we know that it's going to be about still life, and we know that we've looked at some artists. What artists have I looked at that relates to that? Who knows? What artists have I looked at that relates to that? Is it the same one? Is it a development, or have I just done it? I need to address that. I need to think about that. So then the next page we get a change of background colour, and I get a couple of little sketches there, and then yeah, I've got some tracing paper in here, and I've got some more sketches underneath with a quick little pastel drawing, with pencil and pastel. Some nice little quick sketches. Maybe they should have gone first, but maybe they're okay as they are. But I need something to talk about what the objects are, maybe annotate it, talk about if it's got any meaning or not got any meaning. Am I interested in colour? So we've got a Bluetooth portable speaker here, we've got a teapot, we've got a slice of a citrus fruit there. But am I interested in that in terms of shapes, volume and masses? Or am I interested in that in terms of tonality and, you know, sort of hollow things, solid things? Am I interested in terms of their meaning? One pause, one's sharp, one sounds, makes muffled sounds out the back of it. What's the meaning? What's the rule of these? You know, what are they about? There's nothing to tell you, nothing to guide you. So you have to make up your own mind about where the development goes. So here you can see the objects laid out on a cloth, quite nicely arranged. Here you can see some fruit. One of them is sliced, the rest aren't. These are pears. Here you can see some more teapots, which are arranged on a tabletop. And then again, some more teapots. So there's a lot of things about drinking tea here, so which is true. I do like to drink teas. And the background is more developed. It's a sort of sketchy background, so we get paper that's been left blank here, and some of the drawing's quite nice. There's a little bit of drawing in there. That's all quite winning. And then we do get a sense of this form and this volume going out in front here, and then that tonally works. Okay, that's an okay drawing. But it's not scoring as highly as it should do, because there isn't the stuff in there to give it the context and give it the meaning. There is literally no annotation, there is no direction. We don't know where this has come from, and we don't know why it's happening. So let's move on. We've got nothing out of 10 for wide research, and we've got nothing out of 10 for narrow research. There is some exploration and experimentation going on, I'd say, because you can see that there's trying out mark making there, and hatching and shading in this drawing at the top there, and then that's developed there, and sometimes we get the edges in quite strongly and sometimes we lose them. We get some objects in the foreground that are dark and others in the background that are light, and on the previous page we had it the other way around, where we had light objects in the foreground and dark background. So there is definitely some formal visual experimentation. Here we've got some objects which we're not quite sure what they are, but one of them might be a bowl with a slice of lime in it, or lemon, and we've got some mark making. So we've got some, again, the bare paper used as a positive, and some loose marks on a grid of shorter marks, so it makes quite an interesting, pleasing image. So I think there's definitely some visual language experimentation with different kinds of wet and dry media, and we can look at the big scale of the pears in the dish there, and the teapot in the background quite small, and then we've got again the same repeated image of the bowl of above, but this time it's taking up the whole image, and this time it's got colour in it. And now we've got the same thing with the teapots in there, which are abstracted again to give it a kind of flat patterning effect. So there's definitely a mingling together of the subject matter. There's definitely an experimentation with different media, mark making, negative and positive, and so on. So I think for experimentation and exploration, we have to start saying this is definitely 3, 4, 5 out of 10. And then maybe, because if we grab that, we've got some nice little pastel coloured drawings that are put in there. But why have they happened? We don't really know. They haven't really been explained. And is there enough to link those? Maybe there is. They're quite nicely achieved. There's some nice surfaces and so on, and shadow effects. But all that drawing, all that work is really going to waste a little bit here. And what we need to do is see something more. For all this bang, we need a bit more buck. So here's a big drawing which has been made with soft chalks, and some of it's quite good and some of it less so. How do we know? Do we know that the author is aware of that? Has the artist looked at it and said, this bit's working, that bit's not working, and why? What they need to try next? Why have they gone into